Hello there. There you have it. The truth is out. Starmer will keep us tied to the European Union. Forget his weasel words to us. Just look at what he told a conference of progressive leaders in Montreal on Saturday. Starmer showed he has no imagination for the future of the UK, no real plans for growth, etc. All that stuff from him and his team is mere politicking grift. And it also revealed his totally pro-EU credentials. A former aide to Tony Blair, John McTernan, asked Starmer a question, and Starmer's reply was that Labour does not want the UK to diverge from EU rules and regulations. So the EU will just fax the instructions across and Starmer will do what he's told. Most of the conflict with the UK being outside of the EU arises insofar as the UK wants to diverge and do different things to the rest of our EU partners, he answered. But that was the point of Brexit. Get to do things that suit us better. And Starmer will throw it all away. This is Tony Blair's Tier 3 associate membership by default. And Starmer went on, obviously, the more we share values, the more we share a future together, the less the conflict. And actually, different ways of solving problems become available. Sharing values is straight out of the EU playbook. Starmer is signalling that he does intend to take us back in some form. And now the clincher. He carried on by saying, actually, we don't want to diverge. We don't want to lower standards. We don't want to rip up environmental standards, working standards for people that work, food standards and all the rest of it. He's trying to tell us that quality standards only emanate from the European Union. That he, Keir Starmer and his frontbench team are not competent enough to run the country without being instructed what to do from Brussels. And he went on to say, so suddenly you're in a space where, notwithstanding the obvious fact that we're outside the EU and not in the European Economic Area, there's a lot more common ground than you might think. Yes, Labour's common ground of being a willing serf to the EU. This man says he will negotiate a better deal with the EU in 2025 when the Brexit Trade and Cooperation Agreement, the TCA, comes up for review. But he's now laid a trap for himself, because the EU now knows he wants to remain tightly linked to their rules and requirements anyway. Rules and requirements that might well disadvantage the UK. But he's so EU blinkered he can't see that. It's the same trap the anti-Brexit politicians laid by forcing the government to take a no-deal Brexit off the table. Once that was gone, a proper Brexit became all but impossible. And Starmer's just walked into the same sort of tangle. How can he now threaten to diverge in order to get some sort of advantage in future negotiations with the EU, when he's already publicly said he doesn't want to diverge? The EU negotiators must be licking their lips at the thought of the totally one-sided set of talks in 2025 that will see Starmer give the EU everything they want and the UK will get nothing in return. Sky News reports that the Director for the Centre of European Reform, Charles Grant, said that these comments were new, that they were talking about a much closer relationship with the EU than Starmer's talked about in the past. And next week, the CER is due to publish a European strategy for Labour. And Grant said Starmer was doing this because he's trying to soften up other world leaders so they know what to expect when he becomes Prime Minister, if he does. It seems that as far as the Blair crowd and the EU is concerned, Starmer is a shoo-in for number 10, and also that he's going to be marching the UK straight back under EU control in some manner or other. And what they're trying to float right now is that it's either being close with the EU or having a completely deregulated Singapore-on-Thames, where there are no environmental controls or employment laws and the like, which is a complete misrepresentation of the truth. And one unnamed Labour spokesman said, "That doesn't mean we support dynamic alignment. We're not joining the single market or the customs union. We will not be in a situation where we are a rule taker." I beg to differ. That's exactly what it does mean. Without dynamic alignment, the UK would diverge over time, and that's not what your boss wants. Not diverging means we have to dynamically align. More misrepresentation from Labour. Starmer's chats he's reportedly been having with Blair just shows he's an intellectual pillow, bearing the impression of the last person he talks with. The last lot he talked to before that was the WEF at Davos, and he came away praising the WEF and saying he preferred the Davos way of doing things over the Westminster way. Remember that? Because it had people in there he could work with. And no pesky democracy to get in the way either, presumably. And now Blair is bringing Starmer slowly round to declaring that Labour is now the party of join the EU. You can see it coming a mile off. And I personally would not put it past them to even tank the economy to make out the only solution is back in. I really wouldn't. And the job's already been 3/4 done by the Tories anyway. Anyway, the political dynamics appear to be shifting a bit. Although Labour looks set for a comfortable victory, one that would give him a mandate to do virtually anything he liked, his net zero pronouncements and now this guff about staying aligned with Brussels might get people to start wondering about where he will take the UK. He has absolutely no intention of doing what's best for the UK. Just like all Remoaners, all answers lie in the bosom of the EU. Just do what we're told and everything will be all right, is their view, even if it harms their own country in the process. As far as I'm concerned, neither Starmer nor any of his team want the real responsibility of running the UK. No, they want to divest themselves of that responsibility and become mere middle managers between Brussels and the people of the UK. So any deal he signs the UK up to in 2025 will be another sellout. But it will be sold as the only way ahead to save the country. And that'll be either because they've purposefully trashed the economy or that they're unable to manage it. But at the end of the day, any deal Starmer agrees with the EU will look far more like Remain than Leave, and that's for sure.